I can see how our culture and our country has descended or come from them, because our country has a lot of European, but distinctly American, but European flavor, just because a few generations ago we were German and British and French and Nordic, etc.
Yeah. I will say that from a Myers-Briggs feeler perspective, that the reason why I prefer Bahrain, I loved Okinawa as well, for the same reason that the customer service, the connection there is just really beautiful, but it's in another language. Nothing wrong with that, but it makes things difficult to connect to people.
An obstacle.
Whereas here, you've got that connection, and it's, I mean, like, I almost had no adjustment when I got here. Majority, English is the major language. And it's like stepping into India, Pakistan, Bangladesh.
Philippines.
Yes, definitely Philippines. Wow, the Filipino are amazing.
And there's a strong Saudi flavor and Yemeni. I don't know how you say that. People from Yemen.
Yeah.
But I think it's true that there are more people from the Indian, is it diaspora, from India, Pakistan, Bangladesh. There are more Indian people in Bahrain than there are native Bahrainis. I think that's a stat.
And the level of customer service, it will be a huge change to go back to U.S. because instead of white privilege, I say here there's American privilege. The people will, I mean, like, if you need anything, they're going to do what they can to make it happen. And so if someone doesn't keep themselves in check, you can start to take advantage of that. And I see that happen, but I think for the most part, we are all just feeling pretty honored, you know?
Yeah, that's the way I felt there. And it's on the one hand, it's really good business because Bahraini, the Bahraini government and the Bahraini culture, I read that they were kind of the Dubai before Dubai was Dubai, but it's an international business and banking center. And so there's just a culture of you treat people right and you treat people with respect. It was a little uncomfortable at first to see how deferential the servers and the workers were, because their workforce is almost entirely from what they call the subcontinent, so from India, Bangladesh, the Philippines, because you're not going to be somebody from Bahrain is not going to take your order and ask you if you want fries with that, because they have do they have a universal income?
You know, it sure seems that way, because over the last year with COVID, and I'm speaking out of turn because I don't know the facts on that, but with COVID, at least 3 months of their income was taken care of because they weren't able to work. Utilities in the summer, they didn't have to pay. Amazing things like the Bahrain government really takes care of its people. And so, yeah, I think so.
They're taken care of, and a universal income might not be the way they describe it. But I feel like men have to work like 20 years before they get a full government retirement at whatever job they do. If they are employed full-time. And maybe women have to work 15 years to get the same, because they're given credit to have a few years to have children.
Yes, they treat their people very well, and I don't think we're left out of that. Like, I had heard, again, haven't verified, that there's actually, I don't know if you remember, James, one of the hospitals here, the emergency room that you're able to go to whether you have means to pay or not, and even if you're an expat.
Yeah, and that's there's probably a mix of just doing good business and making Bahrain a friendly place to visit, and also just a spiritual or religious component of taking care of people.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, let's face it, my theory, when you hear the prayer over the speaker 5 times a day, it's really not so subtle reminder to do the right thing.
Right. And just like in our culture, we may have that reminder. It doesn't mean everybody's going to do the right thing, but it is. There's so many reminders in that culture, and you see them. You know, you see I would see the men with the prayer beads, and they may not call it that. It's in my mind, it was the equivalent of the Catholic rosary, but you would see men. I think they do call it prayer beads.
They do.
And so I'm an introvert and quiet. When I'm in another country, like I go exploring and I want to immerse myself in the culture. And so I would just ask the guys, I'm like, oh, so what is this? And they're like, oh, there may be another name that they call it besides prayer beads, but that's what it amounts to. Mm-hmm. And they're just like, oh, it reminds me to humble myself. It reminds me to be thankful. And that's not something I practice, not something I have to have, but it is totally cool to see the religious devotion or the spiritual devotion that so many of them have.
Or maybe for us, depending on your religious background, maybe sometimes I think just having the Bible visible is a reminder for us as well.
For sure.
And our pictures of, Jesus or, whatever
the
else.
Saint.
Yeah. So, what was your most challenging location that you've worked at? Not to say you didn't like it, but maybe your most challenging. Certainly, I would say that mine was working in Naples, Italy, and I was there for 10 months.
Bahrain presented a lot of challenges. We've already talked quite a bit about that. Naples had a lot of challenges as well, and the most heartbreaking thing for me was between, and I know you and I were both there, but we were there at different times, but between the hotel and the base I worked on, probably about a 30-minute drive on horrible roads.
Yes.
The streets were lined with trash, and they were lined with prostitutes.
Yes.
And it's not, as you know, not just ladies of the night. We would be going to work at 7 in the morning, and they would be at their posts. And
yes,
it's heartbreaking.
It is.
Because it's, I cannot imagine that's your life. And Gutson knows some people who worked in various ministries there, and they said that a lot of the women were victims of sex trafficking, because to the outsider, it's just like, why don't you just get a different job? But they have handlers, and they have been made to feel that they are in debt to whoever brought them from their host country, whether it's Eastern Europe or some part of Africa. And they have the traffickers, not the victims, but the perpetrators, may have constant contact with somebody back in their village, and if you don't work for me today, it's off with your son's head. And sometimes that is just a threat that they have to take so seriously.
Yes.
But then those threats have come true so many times, and so you just see that, and it's hard. You get kind of calloused because you can't be that heartbroken day in, day out. But that was the most disturbing thing. And I know sex trafficking happens in every country, but it is out on the front streets there. You can't deny it, and it is a constant reminder. And that was just devastating spiritually to see that every single day.
Well, and something that definitely occurs here in Bahrain as well, and definitely stuff that you see, and it looks as if it's a life choice, a lifestyle choice. However, many of these ladies, they have their passports taken.
Someone has holding their passport, exactly.
Yes.
They couldn't if they had a moment of clarity or strength, or if they got fed up. They can't just be like, you know what, I'm going back to my family in fill in the blank country. No, you're not. You don't have a passport.
That's right. And that is all of your freedom. A passport is the key to everything.
For sure.
And so I'm friends with a few here that I talk to, and precious women, they are doing what they need to do to send at least decent money back to their homes, to their families, and so that's really been enlightening to me. But so you and I both found that Naples was one of the most difficult, one of the most rewarding as well. with all the culture and the history. And once you learn it, you learn it. But it easily took me 3 months to get my what I call sea legs in Naples, to get just even to a comfortable place. Just the drivers, my God, I don't even know what I can say about that.
Yeah, Italian drivers and is it Napolitano? People from Naples,
yes.
Napolitano drivers. It's a whole. It is. It's. I'm not. It's not all of Italy. It is definitely that region. It is just. You have to see it to believe it.
Oh,
and
gosh.
Not to say there aren't beautiful things about Naples, downtown Naples, and the seaport, and the churches, and the museums, and the street side is charming. And you're an hour away from Capri and the Amalfi Coast, and so many magnificent, beautiful, lovely places. But then all around you is that. It's the dirtiest place I've seen in Europe. In Europe, so much of Europe, the UK, Germany, France, Norway, Sweden, Finland, like extremely clean. Like most of Germany looks like a national park. And I would say the same for the UK and much of the rest of Italy outside of the Naples region.
Yes, in fact, my experiences in Germany have been that not only will you throw your trash away, you will recycle, and if you don't, you will get the death stares.
You will get a note left on your door. You will get a fine. I wish Americans had a little bit of that.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
I don't want to be that rigid.
I agree.
But we, like, you go anywhere in the States, and you will see roadside trash, and you will see graffiti, and I mean, I don't want to talk about the region I'm from, but you'll be floating a beautiful stream in the Ozarks, and someone has thrown their old refrigerator off of a bridge.
Refrigerator?
It's so ridiculous. It's you would not see that in Germany. You would not see that in the United Kingdom. It's unthinkable. And for whatever reason, we have not caught up to them on that. I'm not one who thinks that, sometimes I break it down into when I have traveled abroad with liberals and with conservatives, and some of my liberal friends go further than I'm willing to go with everything about every other culture. I wish America would do this, and the food is this, and the people are this, and then a lot of my conservative friends are like, it's not that great. Our food is better. Our roads are better. Our this is better. And I try to be a realist and be in the middle.
Yes.
But the way that most Europeans take care of the environment and take care of their poor, I think we could learn a lot.
I agree. For example, and I know I've gone on and on about Bahrain, or we have, but you do not see homeless here. It's not allowed. The families take them in. It absolutely is not halal. It's not allowed. And so that is a beautiful thing. And I think about, all the homeless that we have, even in my little hometown. It's really tragic.
It is to have the wealth and the resources that we have. And, as a social worker, I've worked with the homeless, and it's just so many of our homeless are veterans, and so many are mentally ill. And so it's easy to say they should do this or they should do that. And I catch myself saying that, like, man, you work in this corner getting hey, could you scan groceries at Walmart? Like, I try to be a wannabe woke liberal, and I have those thoughts. But then I think back to when I worked at a homeless shelter, and it's like, drastic mental illness, and oftentimes PTSD from their war days. And so when I see homeless people, it's not that I never judge, because I can't claim that I have arrived there, but it is a reminder. If you've got $1, give $1. If you've got more, give more, but pray for them and be thankful that you're not in their shoes. And work, whether it's through a church or through the government, or just as an individual, work to make whatever has led to their homelessness, work to impact that, to change that situation, because it could have been us if we had a different start in life.
Absolutely there, but by the grace of God go I, right?
For sure.
And just a kind of a little sidebar here.